The first frost of winter had painted the world in a brittle, silver sheen, and it felt as if a little of that cold had seeped into the very foundations of the house YN shared with her husband. It was a beautiful, sprawling modern home, all sharp angles and cool tones, a architectural masterpiece that felt more like a museum than a home. Her home, a place where she tiptoed, not out of reverence, but out of a fear of disrupting the chilling silence. Jungkook, her husband, the man with eyes as dark and deep as a moonless night, and a demeanor to match. Theirs was not a love story, it was a merger, a strategic alliance between two powerful families. He had never wanted a wife. She had naively hoped for a husband. He'd been clear from the beginning. His heart was not part of the deal. He provided a lavish lifestyle, a roof over her head, financial security beyond measure. In return, he asked for space and discretion. He was never cruel, just absent, a ghost in his own home, leaving behind only the faint scent of his expensive cologne and a void of warmth. YN tried. Oh, how she tried. She learned to cook his favorite meals, which he ate in silence at the large, impersonal dining table, his attention often on his phone or tablet. She decorated the house for every season, filling it with touches of warmth and color that felt like desperate flags of surrender against the stark white walls. He never seemed to notice. Her only crime, it seemed, was her clumsiness. It wasn't a constant affliction, but a nervous one, a manifestation of the anxiety that coiled in her stomach whenever he was near. In his imposing, perfect presence, her hands would betray her, becoming all thumbs and fumbling grace. It happened on a Tuesday. The cold had gotten into her bones, and she'd been clutching a blanket around her shoulders, shuffling into the kitchen to make tea, hoping the warmth would spread from the inside out. Jungkook was there, already dressed for the day in an impeccably tailored black suit, his back to her as he scrolled through emails on his phone, a deep frown etched on his handsome face. He'd left his favorite coffee mug on the counter. It wasn't just any mug. It was a heavy ceramic thing, matte black, a gift from his late young Namjoon. It was, perhaps, the only object in the house he seemed to have any sentimental attachment to. She knew to be careful around it. Her shiver was violent and sudden, a full-body convulsion against the chill. The blanket slipped. As she grabbed for it, her elbow caught the handle of the mug. It seemed to hang in the air for a terrifying second, a black hole against the white marble of the floor, before it met its end with a sound that was both brutally final and obscenely loud. Crack shatter. The sound echoed in the silent kitchen. Time froze. YN's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic bird in a cage. Slowly, she forced her eyes up to meet his. Jungkook had turned. His face was a mask of cold fury. His eyes, usually so distant, were now sharp and focused, pinning her to the spot with their intensity. He didn't shout. His voice was low, laced with a venom that was far worse than any yell. "Again?" he said, the word dripping with icy contempt. "Can you not walk through a room without causing a disaster? Is it really that difficult to be aware of your surroundings?" Tears welled in YN's eyes, but she willed them not to fall. "Jungkook, I'm so sorry. It was an accident. I was cold. I shivered. You're always cold. You're always sorry." He cut her off, his voice rising slightly. He took a step forward, gesturing sharply at the shattered pieces. That was the only thing in this godforsaken house that actually meant something to me. The one thing. And you, in your endless, clumsy stupidity, couldn't even let me have that. The word stupidity hit her like a physical blow. She flinched. He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, a rare sign of agitation. You are a walking catastrophe, YN. A beautiful, frustrating headache I never asked for. Headache. The word hung in the air, heavier than the silence that had preceded it. It wasn't just an insult. It was a dismissal of her entire being. She wasn't a person to him. She was an inconvenience, a condition to be tolerated. Something inside her broke. It wasn't the mug. It was that word, headache. All the hope she'd been clinging to, all the little efforts she'd made to bridge the chasm between them, evaporated in that single, contemptuous breath. The tears she'd been fighting vanished, replaced by a numbness so profound it was its own kind of cold. She looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who was her husband in name only, who saw her as nothing more than a nuisance, and she felt nothing. Without a word, she turned and walked away from the shattered ceramic, away from his searing glare. She walked out of the kitchen, down the long hall, and into the bedroom they never shared. She didn't slam the door. She closed it with a soft, definitive click. That click was the beginning of the end, or perhaps the beginning of a new beginning. The distance she created after that day wasn't a dramatic, angry silence. It was something far more absolute. It was erasure. She stopped making his meals. She stopped waiting up for him. She moved her things from the master bedroom into a spare room that faced the garden, a room filled with light and warmth he never visited. She stopped jumping when he entered a room. She stopped trying to fill the silence with her nervous chatter. She simply ceased to exist for him. At first, Jungkook was relieved. The constant, anxious energy that seemed to radiate from her had quieted. The house was finally, truly silent. He could work without interruption, come and go as he pleased, without feeling those hopefully wounded eyes on him. He told himself it was better this way, but the relief was short-lived. He'd come home to a dark, empty house. No smell of dinner, no soft light in the living room. He'd find a plate for himself in the fridge, a simple sandwich or salad she'd clearly made for herself and left a portion of for him. It was perfectly polite, and it was utterly freezing. He'd pass her in the hallway, and she would offer a small, neutral smile, the kind you'd give a stranger who held a door open for you, and continue on her way without a word. Her eyes, once so full of light and emotion when they looked at him, were now calm, placid pools. They saw him, but they didn't see him anymore. Her clumsiness vanished. It was as if the nervous spirit that had haunted her had been exorcised by his cruelty. She moved through the house with a quiet, efficient grace that was unnerving. She was no longer his clumsy wife. She was a ghost in his home, a beautiful, silent reminder of the devastation his words had wrought. He missed the clatter. He missed the soft, apologetic sighs. He missed the way she'd bite her lip when she spilled a little water. He missed her. The realization hit him one night, weeks later, like a punch to the gut. He was sitting in his study, a glass of whiskey untouched on his desk, staring at the closed door. He could hear the faint sound of her laughter from down the hall. She was on a video call with her friend. It was a sound he hadn't heard in so long, a warm, melodic sound that used to irritate him for its perceived naivety. Now it felt like the sun breaking through a century of clouds, and he was on the wrong side of the window, shivering in the cold. He had done this. He had called the one person who had ever truly tried to care for him in this cold mausoleum a headache, and he had successfully cured himself of her. He had scolded the warmth out of her, and now he was freezing to death in the resulting ice age. He thought of the mug, of Namjoon, his Hyung, who had always seen the best in people, who had valued kindness above all else. What would he think of Jungkook now? He would be ashamed. A profound, aching loneliness swallowed him whole. He had gotten exactly what he'd claimed to want, solitude, and it was unbearable. The next evening, he came home early. He found her in the garden, wrapping a delicate rose bush in burlap to protect it from the frost. She was wearing a thick, cream-colored sweater, her nose pink from the cold. She looked peaceful, complete without him. "Why, N," he said, his voice rough from disuse. She looked up, her expression politely inquisitive. "Yes, Jungkook, do you need something?" Her tone was so civil, so distant, it killed him. Can we talk?" he asked, feeling more clumsy and uncertain than she had ever been. She considered it for a moment, then nodded, brushing the dirt from her knees. Of course. They went inside, sitting opposite each other in the vast living room. The space between them on the large sofa felt like a canyon.